exactly. Of all the names you could have picked, though, they're like, I get to pick my own. I want to be Gene Ween, and you need to be Dean Ween. All right, we're the Weens. So it's just
We're
funny.
just looking for a Doreen Ween, and yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Irene Ween.
yeah,
Um,
the
so
Machine Ween.
yeah.
The drummer would be called the Machine Ween.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Das Audiophiles. The guy on the left is John, the guy on the right is Andy. To pretend no one can find the fallacies of the morning rose, forbidden fruit, hidden eyes, courtesies that I despise in me. Take a ride, take a shot now. More on that later, or not. But first, we have a track to listen to. Andy, brother Andy, what you got?
We are going to check out a band today. It'll be the first time on the channel of us listening to them, but I think I may have referenced them once or twice in past videos. The group is Ween. I know you're familiar with the band name. I don't know how familiar you are with their actual works. You know some of their materials? Do you have some of their stuff? Or do you stand with Ween?
No, I don't. It's weird. It's one of those names which I know and have heard. I was going to put it down the ages, but I've heard it, many times. But I do not believe I've ever heard a track by them, and I would be super surprised if I knew someone who had listened to their stuff either.
Oh,
My impression, it's another one of those which is from your continent and didn't make it past Ellis Island. That's my impression.
okay. Well,
So I'll be interested to listen to this and see what it's like. I've got in my head they're quite a geeky band, but they've been going a while, and my opinion, I think, is from 30 years ago,
yeah.
which
Yeah,
is
well,
ill-informed then, so
yeah. And geeky is
not
far
even heard
less
it.
a pejorative now than it was then.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a quirkiness to Ween there. That's undeniable. And lucky for you, you will not only be getting a chance to listen to them, but what I've offered you up today is a live performance of a track, and that track is "Roses Are Free." So please endeavor to give this thing a watch and a listen, given it's a live performance, and come back. Let me know what you think.
Okay, well done. Okay, so it's saying at the top, live in Chicago, HD. I don't think that's a place. I think that means high definition. 2003. I don't think this is a contemporaneous song. This firmly in the 80s, mid to late 80s American middle of the road rock. That's that been dun, 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 dun. It's almost like sort of leading you on a promenade with those keys. Yeah, it's really sort of that American rock with the keyboard and the guitar sort of fought for attention, and usually the keyboard or the guitar won. But even in that phrasing then and the guitar at the end of do do, it's very 80s, very 80s. So yeah, it's interesting. Let's see how it progresses.
Take a piece of tinsel and put it on the tree.
Okay. So that's interesting. I like the guy's bug-eye delivery. That's quite funny. I'm sure he's like that all the time, so fair enough. But yeah, it's quite comical. I always had in my mind that Ween were quite a sort of geeky band, and this is not dispelling that. Um, yeah, but so you mentioned about Tinsel on the Tree. Is this like it sounds like a cautionary tale. It's something about, getting a car and cruise the land of the brave and free, but don't forget something about, I have to write this down. But then it's claiming, don't believe the florist when he tells you the roses are for free. I've never heard that expression. Um, but then I did know about the dragon thing and the Asian ladies, so what do I know? Um, but yeah, the way it sort of rose up with the tones is that sort of this is the cautionary bit. Listen up. We urge you to pay attention because you might learn something. Yeah, it's quite funny. Quite enjoyed this, but yeah, let's see how it continues.
Push it into third if you know you're gonna climb a hill.
Oh, nice little toss.
Keep plenty of the sun until you know that you had your fill. Resist all the urges that make you wanna go out and kill.
That's interesting. So I don't know when this song was written, but it's been forming in 2003 and resist all the urges that make you want to go out and kill, I think you said, with glee almost, pointing at the crowd, and they cheer in response. Um, uh, Sadly, that sentiment, is actually for real. Yeah, I love the way there's little bits going on. So the drummer like throwing a sticker because really he's sitting back. It's pretty easy for him, and the guitarist there in the orange shirt is almost like bopping his head up and down. And this is not very rocky at all, so that made me laugh as well. Yeah, funny.
But don't forget to understand exactly what you put on the tree. Don't believe the florist when he tells you that the roses are free.
Pretty smart. Thanks for loving that. I have to be careful here because I found that some of that hilarious. Um, I wonder how much of that is them having fun, and how much of that is tongue in cheek, because he's pulling all these faces here like Nigel Tufnell. Um, I mean, it could have been Smell the Glove tour, it really. But it was funny because he wasn't right, like, shredding it, but it was posturing like he thought it was Jimmy Page at the point. And I just thought that was him acting up, as it were. That was funny, really funny. However, it did sound very good. Um, I even like this of the COD ending where they all surround the and look at the drummer and we're done. Yeah, that's it's a real cliched ending, and I love it. Yeah, so I think there's quite a bit of like self-deprecating humor in this. Um, I presume it's a bit tongue-in-cheek as a joke. I don't know if it's lost on the audience or not. I would hope so, that they're just they're finding it funny as well. Um, but yeah, the only thing I would say is that the straddling of the keyboard and the guitars was a bit too 80s American, for me to be really enjoyable. But the instrumental part and the guitar solo was definitely the best bit of it. But I like the wry, sort of knowing sort of delivery of this. It kind of made me feel of the sort of songs you get from, instruments aside, from singer-songwriters at piano. I'm thinking like Billy Joel or something like that, or maybe even Joe Jackson, but sort of yeah, early 80s, where there's kind of knowing songs. Um, it had that kind of flavour to it. It's interesting. Certainly not how, I don't know what I expected from Ween, but this wasn't it. So yeah, we need to find out more about this. So let's go back and get the info from the man himself, Andy.
All right, so you had a smell of the roses, didn't cost you a thing. What did you make of this performance by Ween?
I mean, I have to say, I'm quite gladdened by this because I mean, I for one have always been against battery reared roses. So the ones that are anyway. So um, right, this starts off with stabbing keyboards that kind of walk along the promenade of the song intro with a more than a slight dash of the 1980s to them, and with that sort of guitar cuffing out the phrase at the end of it, of each sort of like section, in the style of someone who would not be averse to wearing a guitar. It instantly smacks of the US of A, and that sort of mid to late 80s period as well, with that sort of amalgamation of keyboards and guitar, and not quite, and the kind of fighting for dominance that we've spoken about before. So yeah, interesting. Your man starts to sing. There is more than a touch of the geekness to him as well. And he's got the quite a weird sort of not quite comedic, but there's a bit of an interesting tone to his voice. Yeah, and I'm fascinated to listen to it. I do catch the phrase something about cruising the land of the brave and the free, and there's a little bit of a cheer from the crowd when they hear that. We then get a quick snatch of or a glimpse of the adoring audience, and there's one bewigged nerd air drumming that did alarm me in particular, and luckily I didn't have my sniper rifle with me at the time. So yeah, it was interesting. You know, yeah, so it's interesting, the sort of verse, and then we get like a half a tone shift up, and it's the musical equivalent. It's not quite the end of, what have we learned today on the section of He-Man, but it's that sort of, this is the question now. And it kind of urges us to don't forget exactly what we put on the tree. Yeah, I forgot to say at the start, there's something about tinsel on the tree, which made me think, is this a Christmas song? No, it's not. Very definitely not. And there's something about don't believe the florist when he tells you that the roses are for free. That I said in the reaction, that's not I don't know if that's an idiom. It's not an expression I've heard. The roses are free, but then I wasn't familiar with the old ride the tiger being the Asian girl
Yeah.
thing, So it could be anything. It really could. But anyway, we go back into that sort of jaunty verse, and it has that sort of wry, knowing kick, which reminded me of those. I think I would say late 70s, early 80s sort of singer-songwriters, most of which would be placed on a piano. And the way they sing is quite knowing, and it's usually about relationships and stuff. And I couldn't help but sort of picture an early Billy Joel, pre-An Innocent Man, pre-Uptown Girl and all that, in terms of the tone of it.
Mhm.
Although it's not the same musically. But yeah, and I did enjoy the bug-eyed delivery of the line, resist all urges that make you want to go out and kill. Very points. And of course, sadly, this is a growing reality, not just the thing, Even, I don't know when the song was written, but obviously it's said that it was performed in 2003. And 22 years later, it's even more of a weekly reality almost. And the crowd cheers, and you can't help but feel a bit of irony in that looking back on it now from then.
Yeah.
It's clearly not where they were meaning this sort of very sort of, again, knowing way, not literal, and it can be taken literally now. It really can, which is sad. We then go into an instrumental break, which starts off with this guitar phrasing that sounds like it's inspired by Billy Smart's Circus, very the big toppers in town. And then it settles into the main riff, which we do recognize from earlier in the song. I like the drummer's clearly bored up until this point because he's been throwing his sticks in the air and stuff. And he throws in a couple of nice fills for measure because it's been pretty easy going for him, I think. And so it does this sort of solo-y type riffy bit. And then we get to the stairway section, with the climbing and climbing and climbing progression, which again is standard stuff, but very enjoyable. And then drops back down to this normal sort of blues scale version of the riff, which again, I really enjoyed this. Probably the most, I enjoyed this part the most of the song. For reasons I'll go in a sec. But I also hugely enjoyed the guitarists. I do hope that there is a real sackful of humour involved there and a bit of tongue-in-cheek, because he's putting some faces that are very Nigel Tufnell, and it's the one bit where he goes to in terms of his amp, and I was thinking, yeah, he's turning up to 11. But there is a bit of sort of Spinal Tap about it, and it's great. Yeah. It's really funny because he's really, he's contorting with ecstasy when he's not doing it. It sounds lovely, don't get me wrong, but it's it's no Hendrix, And then that sort of staggered finale, where complete with this sort of crowding of the drum kit. Again, is a lovely cliche, which you don't really see anymore, and I really enjoyed it. I think the last time I saw that was the second or third "Oh Brother" you gave me, where they all sort of turned and went towards, But with them, you feel it's like a ritual, and there will be some bloodletting afterwards.
Exactly.
But not with these guys. But it was just getting really, really fun. So hugely enjoyable. I thought the song was decent. The only thing I would say is it's stylistically, it's a bit too heavy on the 80s keyboard for my liking. However, I would say it's a totally authentic American sound, which I think of such would make it successful in America and not a hope in this country. And that's what happened with quite a lot of that sort of sound. And bands were kind of figuring out how this keyboard thing would work in with a traditional guitar and bass. And I think it went down better in the States than it did with us. I think we had pure keyboard, pure guitar, and there was some mixture, but not as much. So yeah, it was interesting to finally hear Ween. I'm sure that, they've been going on a while now. If they're still going, then geez, they've probably done loads of stuff. You get the sense that they are a bit of a jammy band, just from seeing them play. They can probably turn that into a lot of different things. But yes, it was really interesting. But I particularly liked I like Nigel Tufnell on the guitar. I thought he was great.
Yeah,
And your bug-eyed man singing as well. Again, I felt he had his tongue firmly in his cheek half the time as well.
I think they all were kind of having fun with it for sure. They know what they're
Yeah.
doing, and they're not taking themselves seriously
I mean,
while
he was
doing
headbanging up when he was gently strumming, and it was, it's funny.
it. Exactly. Um, so yeah, thank you for giving this a listen. I'm glad you got to see them and listen to them for the first time and kind of put an actual sound to a name that you've probably been hearing for
Yeah.
years. So great. Yeah, they are an American rock band from New Hope, Pennsylvania, formed in 1984 by Aaron Freeman and Mickey Melchiondo, better known by their respective stage names, Gene Ween and Dean Ween. That goes to show you how seriously they're taking this shit.
So yeah,
If
it
you
would
could
not
make
only
up
would it
your
have to
own
be
name.
like, yeah, Ramones type, surname, but a
Yeah, yeah.
rhyming one as well.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Of all the names you could have picked, though, they're like, I get to pick my own. I want to be Gene Ween, and you need to be Dean Ween. All right, we're the Weens. So it's just
We're
funny.
just looking for a Doreen Ween, and yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Irene Ween.
yeah,
Um,
the
so
Machine Ween.
yeah.
The drummer would be called the Machine Ween.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That'd be great. Uh, Generally categorized as an alternative rock band, the band are known for their irreverent, highly eclectic catalog of songs inspired by funk, soul, country, gospel, prog, psychedelia, R&B, heavy metal, and punk rock. They'll pretty much do or parrot whatever if they think it'll make a good song, a good Ween song. And with descriptors like irreverent and highly eclectic, you could extrapolate from that yeah, there's probably some geekiness involved as well, as you put it earlier with your sort of supposition about their sound. So yeah, Aaron Freeman and Mickey Melchiondo met in a junior high school typing class in 1984. Freeman recalled, "We didn't like each other. He was a jock and I was more of a trench coat guy. But we sat next to each other in typing class and both realized we were into music."
Neither one of them was a jock, and neither one of them was a
It's
trench
hard
coat
to believe,
guy
isn't
either.
it?
No.
Yeah. The name Ween was a word made up by the duo, a combination of the words wuss and penis. Their
I was going to go
earliest
for Wiener as well.
yeah, exactly. Their earliest home recordings were drug-fueled and free-spirited. Melchiondo would later say about this era, the music was designed to be obnoxious. With a name like Ween inspired by wuss and penis, who would have thought? So Ween self-released several cassette albums from their formation until 1989. Afterward, they put out three officially released lo-fi albums. God, Ween, Satan, The Oneness in 1990, The Pod in 1991, and Pure Guava in 1992. Under Elektra, the band released four professionally recorded albums: Chocolate and Cheese in 1994, 12 Golden Country Greats in 1996, The Mollusk in 1997, and White Pepper in 2000. They later returned to independent labels for their albums Quebec in 2003 and La Cucaracha in 2007. After a 28-year run, Freeman quit the band in 2012, citing the need to focus on his alcohol and drug addiction issues. Ween reformed later in 2015 and toured extensively without plans to record new material, but later entered an indefinite hiatus last year in 2024, again citing Melchiondo's mental health as a reason. For their first 10 years of existence, Ween performed live as a duo backed by a digital audio tape, sometimes playing with on and off bassist Chris Williams, better known by his stage name, Mean Ween. With the release of Chocolate and Cheese, they stopped playing with Williams and expanded to a four-piece act for every show, later adding a fifth member as well. Their live members included Claude Coleman Jr. on drums, Dave Drivitz on bass, and Glenn McClellan on keyboards. Ween also collaborated extensively with Andrew Wise, who later joined the band as the bassist in 1989 and also produced 5 of their 9 studio albums. Despite never receiving much mainstream recognition, Ween developed a large, devoted cult following and garnered critical acclaim. So in total, the band has released 10 studio albums between 1990 and 2007. The aforementioned Chocolate and Cheese, the album on which this track is featured, is the band's 4th studio album, first released on September 27th, 1994. It was the first Ween album to be recorded in a professional studio, in contrast to the preceding 4-track home recordings that were the lo-fi stuff that they had released before. After self-producing their previous album, Pure Guava, in 1992, the band reunited with Andrew Wise to produce the album. Its broad sound has been described as genre-hopping, prominently featuring styles of music including psychedelia, country, funk, industrial, and Latin music. The album is dedicated to comedian John Candy, who died while Ween was putting the album together. The track A Tear for Eddie was dedicated to Parliament/Funkadelic guitarist Eddie Hazel, who died in 1992. In a 2011 interview, Gene Ween credited a Spanish lesson on Sesame Street with inspiring the track Buenas tardes, amigo. Chocolate and Cheese was supported by the singles I Can't Put My Finger on It, Freedom 76, and Voodoo Lady. Though the album did not perform well commercially, it received positive reviews and has been recognized as one of Ween's signature albums. The track we checked out today, Roses Are Free, has been labeled as an 80s-inspired synth-pop song and an homage to Prince. AllMusic rates the album. You were naming a lot of people, and I was wondering if you were going to get around to Prince, but fair play for not.
It's just that when we spoke about this before, and I was saying about my unease with that sound of the American, guitar synth pop thing, I'd said before that Prince perfected it, and then everyone else tried to copy it and failed, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair, and that's a fine assessment. I think you could still take issue with the everyone else failed thing, but ultimately, I completely agree with you that nobody did it better than Prince. That first part is undeniable. So this was their homage to the Purple One himself. So AllMusic rates the album a 4.5 out of 5. Pitchfork and Uncut scored it a 9 out of 10. While Rolling Stone Album Guide, Q, and Select all gave it 4 out of 5 stars. AllMusic critic Heather Fairs lauded Chocolate and Cheese as a brilliant fusion of pop and gonzo humor, and arguably Ween's finest moment, which proved for once and all that along with their twisted sense of humor and wide musical vocabulary, Dean and Gene are also impressive songwriters. Similarly, Pitchfork reviewer Stuart Berman wrote that it showed that when you scraped away the cruddy production and pitch-shifting chicanery that defined their previous records, Ween were undeniable pop songwriters. Rob Hughes of Uncut found that despite Ween's many audacious stylistic turns throughout Chocolate and Cheese, the songs are so good they transcend notions of pastiche, concluding that the album, while sometimes crossing the limits of acceptable taste, documents the band's sheer verve, ideas, and innovation. In her review of Chocolate and Cheese for Spin, Terry Sutton observed that Ween seemed to have potty trained its predilection for lengthy funk deconstructions, limiting their Prince Brothers Johnson fixation to a prized few taut sexy saunters, and elsewhere exploring new musical territory by taking influences from Southern rock, Philadelphia soul, and disco, among other styles. Certifiably insane and dangerously insidious, Paul Reese wrote in Select. Chocolate and cheese is the finest argument for dropping out and tuning in to Ween's parallel universe. In 2014, Guitar World included Chocolate and Cheese on its list of 50 iconic albums that defined 1994. And last year, the album received a 30th anniversary deluxe edition re-release on August 2nd. In 2004, Ween released Live in Chicago, a DVD and CD set that compiled tracks from 2 live performances from the Quebec tour at Chicago's Vic Theater in November of 2023. And this rendition of Roses Are Free is taken from that live performance. Dean Ween has stated that Roses Are Free is his favorite Ween song to play live, and you could tell. I love it because every single guy in the band is doing something different and is playing full tilt the whole song. Everybody is doing something tasty at the same time as hard as they can, and it makes this one big, beautiful sound. So that's actually my favorite song to play live. All right, let's jump into these super weird lyrics. Take a piece of tinsel and put it on the tree. Cut a slab of melon and pretend that you still love me. Carve out a pumpkin and rely on your destiny. Get in your car and cruise the land of the brave and the free. But don't forget to understand exactly what you put on the tree. Don't believe the florist when he tells you that the roses are free. Take a wrinkled raisin and do with it what you will. Push it into third if you know you're going to climb a hill. Eat plenty of lasagna till you know that you've had your fill. Resist the urges that make you want to go out and kill. But don't forget to understand exactly what you put on the tree. Don't believe the florist when he tells you that the roses are free. Throw that pumpkin at the tree, unless you think that pumpkin holds your destiny. Cast it off into the sea. Bake that pie and eat it with me. So, the song is known for its quirky lyrics, you don't fucking say. Catchy melody and playful delivery, despite some deeper satirical themes. It's a song that appeals to both hardcore Ween fans and those less familiar with the band, making it a good introductory track, which is why I picked it for you. While the song's lyrics are often interpreted as commentary on social conventions and the dangers of blindly following them, the overall tone remains lighthearted and enjoyable.
Yeah, do you know what I had like going through my head as you were going through the lyrics? I don't know why it sprung to mind, just the absurdity of it all. But it was kind of like I got tie your yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. It was that same sort of like instructional sort of thing, you know. Cut a slice of melon and pretend you love me.
Yes.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah.
Carve out a pumpkin and rely on your destiny. Like, okay, all right. Yeah, this is a totally weird song by a totally weird band, but there's something absolutely charming about
Yeah.
about how one, it's obvious that as many of the writers point out, the critics point out, that these guys are really sound songwriters and musicians, but they don't let that go to their head. They're just having fucking fun, creating fun sounding music and having a blast doing it. And at the end of the day, if you strip away all like the pretentiousness and the pomp and circumstance of like rock stardom, this is the best, purest way to be a musician. Like, hey man, I'm just doing it for shits and giggles, man. And if it sells, it sells. That's great. Which is why I think I respect these guys and bands like them so much. And it's not often that you stumble across folks who have that kind of. I mean, look at Oasis. Who's more up their own ass than the Gallagher brothers? And yes, they've been wildly successful and have written some really great songs. But how refreshing is it? And they're not the only ones. That's far more, the normative than these guys are. So it's refreshing when a band like this comes around and kind of reminds you, hey, they're just fucking goofy guys having a good time making music. So yeah, I'm glad you finally got to check out some Ween, John, and get an idea of what they're like and stuff. So appreciate you giving this a go, buddy.
Yeah. I think if you'd have kill the keyboards, it'd have been wonderful.
Yeah,
That's the style they chose, but it's fine. It's for my taste.
All right. Well, guys, let us know what you thought about Roses Are Free by Ween. Drop your comments down in the comments field below. Let us know if there's any other stuff by them that we should check out on the channel, or if there's any other bands that you guys have been jonesing to see us listen to or get our take on. Please feel free to drop them down there as well. We really do appreciate interacting with you guys and watching you all interact with each other. Also, if you haven't, please think about liking, sharing, and or subscribing to the channel. It only costs you a couple clicks and seconds, but it does go a long way to help us with the algorithm gods over here at YouTube. So thank you so much in advance for that. And hopefully, John and I will catch all y'all in the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.